Practical AI, everybody. My name's Jeff, and I'm with Peter Lynn. Today's topic is governance of data sets or data in AI. Peter, tell us what governance is and what it is not, and why it matters for building AI models.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating topic. It's actually quite old. It goes back to the very beginning of AI, which was when you build these smart systems, how do you, one, know what it's trained on, and two, can you validate the result and prove that the result that you get is what you claim it is? So usually the first step is you get the data. In the 70s and 80s, there wasn't a lot of data. And so everyone struggled with creating data sets that were good. And it was considered a black art because you basically had to have like 10 to 20 years of experience building AI data sets to be able to train something useful.
Is that because of the way that the models were being constructed at the time, or is that because of you just need lots of data, or some combination of both?
Well, it's a combination of both because neural networks have been around for a long time, since the 70s and 80s. But if we go back to our previous conversation about ImageNet, the breakthrough with neural networks was when ImageNet became available. Because before that, there wasn't enough data for you to train a model that would prove it was better than one that was a human coded algorithm.
Okay. And what's an example of a human coded algorithm or a method of doing it other than neural networks?
Probably one of the earlier algorithms was called fast line detection. And so that was a really efficient algorithm for detecting lines in a picture. And then you could then look at the lines in the picture to figure out shapes and other things and contours in an image. So, but the first step was take an image and figure out where the lines are. Um, and so that was a hand-coded thing. And OpenCV, Open Computer Vision, was one of the earlier open source frameworks that had that algorithm implemented really fast. And so people still use it today for research and other kind of experiments or on mobile or little robotics devices. So that's been around. But in terms of like governing data, when we move from a hand collected, hand tuned small data set of less than a million to this big data world where we had Google and you had Amazon, you had Apple and Microsoft, where you have billions and billions and tens of billions of web pages. Well, you can collect that data, but you can't humanly go through and review everything. It would take an army of people like 100 years to do that.
So one of the things that I think we've talked about a little bit in the past is, copyright, rights in general, privacy. If my phone number gets leaked out or is available in some form or something that I filled out on the web, does someone actually have the right to use that? But then also people's art that they've put out there, or someone's photo that they took, it's an image that might, not be available. So I think it's it's pretty clear that this topic of governance of data is probably pretty big and maybe not fully mature yet, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what are the legal ramifications of, let's say, Google or Adobe or ChatGPT screwing this up, like, and actually using someone's artwork or something? What are the ramifications? Do we even know?
Right. So right now, OpenAI and Microsoft have said we'll identify customers of our products, meaning that if someone sues you because you use Microsoft or OpenAI to generate something and says, hey, you created an image that's actually a direct ripoff of my painting, they can't come after you, and Microsoft or OpenAI will defend you in that case.
So they're going to take the hit.
Well, so that's what they've said. Now, in reality, I mean, how does that work? Right? Like if you're a writer and you've written, say, 10 novels, and it was scraped and used to train GPT, and then let's say 2 paragraphs get copied directly into someone else's work, and then it's posted online, and that person says this was generated by ChatGPT. Well, okay, like that's direct copying, and there's like proof.
What about just write this story in the mode of Tom Clancy?
Mhm.
Well, in order for it to do that, it has to consume Tom
Yes.
Clancy novels, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then spit it back. Is that a data governance breach of some sort, or could it be construed that way?
Oh, absolutely, because his work is copyrighted. Now, if you wait until his copyright expires, then it's okay. But his books haven't expired yet in terms of copyright. And everyone knows that all these companies are training on copyrighted information.
Okay,
Only
so
when that happens is Adobe. Adobe says we're only training on licensed images for like Photoshop. And so they're saying we're only going to train on stuff that we've licensed, and we're going to pay the licensees, the artists, a certain amount of money for using their data.
okay, so I mean that kind of gets to the next level then. The next question is there's a trade-off there, right? I'm assuming that Adobe's AI, that the production that comes out of their AI is different and maybe not as good as someone that's got a wild, wild west approach to data, right? So less governance could result in better results.
Yes. Yep.
So what do you think will happen in the future here? Do you think there'll be some lawsuits and or the door will shut essentially? Like if you better hurry up and train your models in the wild, wild west mode before the data governance kind of overreaches or creeps up into your ability to train a model effectively?
So that comes back to the whole idea of, did your model generalize correctly? And did it memorize the data that it was trained on? And that goes back to governance. Like if you can prove that your model didn't memorize data that it was trained on, then you can say with certainty, okay, my model was trained on data, but we're never going to spit out what you drew or what you wrote, right? Then you could give your customers 100% assurance that, okay, you can use our models and you won't be caught in a lawsuit. And we won't have to defend you because what we generated infringes on someone else's copyright.
Okay, so interesting. So you kind of put this little thing in there about memorization. Um, so there's possibly a level or a layer of governance. One is, are you
Yep.
using something illegally or that's not, that's copywritten? But then the next level is, does your model forget it, like, and not memorize it,
Yep.
right? So there's sort of
Yep.
two levels of governance there, right?
Yep. There is. Yeah. In the case of language models, it has to memorize certain things. Like if you ask it, where is the Eiffel Tower? Well, it has to remember that it's in Paris.
Hmm.
But that's not copyrightable, right? Because everyone knows that Eiffel Tower is in Paris, and that's in France.
Yeah.
And France is in the continent of Europe, and they're part of the EU. So those things aren't copyrightable. But if you say, generate me a picture of the Eiffel Tower, and it literally spits out a photo that someone took that's copyrighted, well, now you're in trouble.
All right. So where do you think the industry is going to go in the next 2 years in terms of data governance?
I think there's going to be a lot of fighting back and forth. The companies that are training models are going to say, no, this is not copyrightable as their excuse, which is not really valid in my opinion. But I understand why they're saying that. It's because they need the data to train better models. But it's also not right because if someone took time to frame and capture a picture exactly the right way with exactly the right lens exactly the right focal length, the right exposure, that person deserves credit for that piece of work.
Well, and also may not want it to be used to train a model.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, my concern is like one step beyond this, and that is that as soon as they've got their models generalized, they'll be rushing to get regulation in place to close the door on data, and they'll want high levels of data governance so that no one else can catch up. That's where I think it'll probably end up.
Yeah, eventually, but we're if I had to guess, I would say we're definitely more than 10 years out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Seems like everything's like 18 months away. So
Well, I mean, like they can train better models in 18 months, but no one can prove anything at this point about anything in the models.
yeah. Well, this is a fascinating topic and one that'll be fun to keep an eye on over the years. We appreciate you guys watching our video cast here. Be sure to ask questions and leave comments, and we will continue to provide some good topics for you. Take care, everybody.